Welcome back. So today's video is a little bit different from your normal sort of boxing content. Usually that's the kind of thing I want to talk about. I feel like that's what I know best. But for me, I'm very lucky in my life. I work a job that I love. I barely even call it a job. Some days I wake up and think, when am I going to have to actually get a real job, if you know what I mean? So I think this is a best example of how you can use your passion to make money, which means in your life it's going to be far more enjoyable, instead of having to work 6 days a week, 5 days a week doing something you dislike, you can slowly transition days into things that you enjoy more, and it barely feels like you're working. So that's what today's video is going to be about. 3 days a week is better than five. The average person works 5 days a week, let's say 40 to 45 hours if you're lucky. We're not even including traveling to and from work and all the rest of it. And most people do not work with people they enjoy being around. They're kind of glommed and stuck with them. Whereas, for example, with myself, even if for tomorrow I wasn't as busy as I am with my boxing business, I could now transition to working, say, 3 evenings a week, as well as my boxing, and I would be more than all right. Because where I don't have to work the full 5 days, I can enjoy periods of my days in my week. It means I'm far better off, financially, mentally, physically. My life becomes infinitely better because I've taught myself this skill that I can monetize, that I enjoy. I can have a far better work week than the average person. I mean, I couldn't tell you the last time I had a work week where I sat there and thought, I don't like this anymore. So, again, 3 days normal work supplemented by your passion. What I often recommend to people, and this is not necessarily what I did, I was very fortunate in the way that my business ended up working and how successful it was, is that I didn't need to transition from a full-time job to, from proof of concept to knowing, okay, I earn X amount, now I can phase out days of work. I was able to do it from the beginning, and there's many reasons why I was able to do that. Of course, living an incredibly fortunate life, by the grace of God. But I personally believe anybody can take what they enjoy doing and turn it into a business, turn it into something you like. Now, this is not me making a video telling you I earn 100,000 a month and I earn 10 grand a month. I don't by any means. Of course, who wouldn't want to do that? And, God willing, in the future I will. But what it is talking from a perspective of somebody who does something that they enjoy and that they're able to have immensely better weeks than they used to when they worked a 9 to 5 job, because of the fact that I was able to find something I liked and I was able to monetize it through hard work and dedication. So that would be my coin term: 3 days a week better than five. And there's the greatest saying of all time: if you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life. I found, and I don't know if it's necessary for everybody, that people used to say to me, oh, but if you work in something that you like, eventually you won't like it anymore. And I'm very, very fortunate to the fact that there's not a day that goes by where I don't enjoy it. Certain customers, certain people you train are harder to work with than others, but that's part and parcel of working with people. So, again, if you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life. Provide good service. When I started my business, it has my surname in it. It's Fisher. So for me, I'm representing my family. It's what I always dreamed of doing. So I want my stamp, my name on something, that I'm going to deliver a good service. I'm going to give the best possible to people. My issue with many people is, just because you can provide a bad service and still make the same money doesn't mean you should, because people can smell honesty on you. They can smell when you try and do the right thing. So whenever you're teaching anybody, whenever you're providing a service, I recommend to be as good as possible. You know, if someone's paid you £10 too much, give it back to them. If someone's forgotten that they've paid for a session, make sure you sort that out with them. Being as good and as honest as possible will always pay in the long run. And you're not just doing it to gain favor, you're doing it because it's the right thing. Even from a Christian perspective, it's not that people are watching, but God is always watching. So our actions must align with the way that we behave. Now, has everybody always behaved in that perfect manner? Of course not. But if we can aim to be as good as possible, our business will always flourish. Trying to cut corners and snake people and do all these things, it doesn't work. And I can speak for multiple times where I've seen people do this with their businesses, especially with boxing coaching, personal training, where they're in it for just money and not to provide a good service and to create a legacy or something good. And in the end, you always shoot yourself in the foot. So always aiming to provide a good service, always aiming to be the best you can possibly be, and going the extra mile will pay volumes in the future. And again, if you love something, for me personally, boxing is life. It's all I spend my time doing. So when someone comes and trains with me, they can see it on you, they can smell it on you. When you like something, when it's your passion, people will always be able to tell that you like that thing. And I think that sells itself. We've all been somewhere where a person, you can tell they don't really want to be there. And again, this ties into the last slide that we looked at previously. If you love something, you'll never work a day in your life. And truly, I believe everybody can do this. I think we all have something we enjoy doing. It could be as much as you like football, you like rugby, you like anything. There's always going to be a way to make, even whether it's a small amount of money, but something that can supplement, and increase your life further. So that's what I'd recommend. Not aiming to make millions. I think with business in general, and I can't talk massively because I'm not, this multi-millionaire businessman, but I could just talk from my small perspective. Trying to say, okay, I need 100,000 now, I need this, this, and this, not laying the foundations, not making, you know, building the skill first that's monetizable, I think is always going to work better. If you just chase money and you think, how can I get the maximum amount of money now? In the long run, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. You're going to damage relationships you could make with people that in the future you can make money. And another thing I would always say is mutually exclusive. If you're both making money off something, you're always going to be happy. But if somebody feels like you're getting more out of them than they're getting out of you, or vice versa, it can create a dynamic that's not particularly great. So always making sure you're aiming for service. And through good service, I promise you, the best customers you'll ever receive are those that you get recommended to you by other people. For as much as I do run a small amount of paid ads, I do a little bit of stuff on Instagram, YouTube, like you'll see with this video, and a few other bits like my website. The best I've ever had is the marketing of trying to be as good as possible, and other people then recommending themselves or recommending people to you. Some of the customers I have today that have trained me for 2 years are people that were recommended to me by other people. So that's something I'd recommend massively. And mistakes I've made. Consistency is everything, whether it be diet, exercise, lifestyle, relationships. If you look at, for example, your relationships, the more you put into that person, the more consistent you are, the more reliable you'll always be, and the more that they'll always be there for you. It's like that with business, I think. I look at, for example, with TikTok, things like that. Whether it's paying consistently for the ad revenue, whether it's bringing people to a paid, like a Patreon, like a paid community, any of these kind of things. The more consistent you are, the more that you show up, people believe in you, and as they should. If you look at some of the best people in your life, the more they showed up for you, the more you could believe them, you could trust them, and we all have that person in our life that we can trust and believe, and we know they turn up. So, wanting things to come to me was always something that I suffered with. I just expected things to fall into my lap. If I just did nothing, that it would just be given to me, and that's never the case. Someone told me years ago, never rest on your laurels, and especially with boxing coaching or any kind of personal training business, the more I got 10 clients this week, and then you don't go and try and get 10 the next week, that those 10 fall off and all of a sudden you're with none. So trying to keep consistent turnover and turn through, and especially trying to retain people, making sure that you're giving them the service provided, that you're asking them what they need from you is very important. What you retain is just as important as what you gain. So I found this with myself, trying to make sure that I'm facilitating for people what they need, and trying to make sure I'm sort of directing myself in the right manner. Another thing I'd say is being lazy and leaving things that could have 10x my business. For example, I made myself a website, very small, very simple, very basic. I'm not the greatest web designer in the world, but it just decided, I needed to have a Google presence so people could find me. Since doing that, I've probably gained 10 new customers. Now, let's say if those customers pay me an average of, I don't know, £160 a month, times that by 10, times that by 12, times that by 4, times that by 12, it's a lot of money. So just for something as small as £45 a month for a Wix website, you could massively change your business. And those 10 people will tell 10 people who tell 10 people. All of a sudden, you can imagine how it snowballs. So, I bought the domain for my website, fisherboxing.academy.co.uk, and then I left it for something like 2 years. So imagine in that 2 years what I could have achieved if I hadn't diverted, I hadn't waited. I would have been immensely more successful. And now I'm reaping the benefits massively of having that website. People are constantly contacting me, more posting on Instagram, trying to grow that online presence. Even TikTok, for example, now I'm in the monetized TikTok Career Fund. I'm averaging a decent amount of money. Now, it's not life-changing money, but when it pays for your food shopping, puts fuel in your car, spending money for a holiday, it does make a massive difference. And it also enables you to have, to have money to grow your business, to buy ads, all these kind of things. So try not to put things off. And I've learned the biggest thing in my life is I'm always looking to do the next thing. What can I do next? Really, what I've learned is you always know what you need to do. You always have an idea of what needs to be done next. So whether it's business cards, Instagram, making a video like this today, there's always something you can be doing that you need to do, but for some reason you put it off. I can't remember which, it's in the book of, I think it's Paul. It's, I do not what I want to do, but what I do is what I don't want to do, something like that. And effectively, it's talking about the fact that often we know exactly what we need to do, but we choose not to do that thing. So my biggest recommendation, even as a small business owner, someone who's done this for, a decent period of time, but has learned a lot of lessons and, and failed a lot of things, is make sure you're concentrating on doing the things you need to do. For example, if you're a personal trainer, and I get into arguments with this about all the time, you need to be in good shape because you are the shop window for your business. Often people say, "Oh, I'll do it in a bit," or "I'll do it later." You know exactly what you need to be doing. So concentrate on these things. And once again, thank you for tuning in. Hopefully it's informative and useful. And tomorrow's video will be a little bit more boxing based, but this is something I thought I'd touch on today because it's going to be helpful for somebody. So God bless and thank you as always.